The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
This story happened with a fellow, his name was Yitzchak Weinstein. Yitzchak Weinstein lived in Petach Tikva. He was a Chiloni. He was not a religious Jew yet. It was a binyan shechilim, was an apartment building in Israel full of Chilim, not religious Israelis. Now usually, especially in Petach Tikva, it's not known to be such like very religious place. There's a lot of religious people, but it's not known to be like a religious city of Bnei Torah. So in this apartment building, it was basically mostly Chiloni, mostly unaffiliated Jews. One of the people that lived in that apartment building, his name was Yitzchak Weinstein. In this apartment building, a very big religious family, Haredi family, moved in to one of the apartments. And Baruch Hashem, when the Haredim, when the religious Jews move in, they move in with one kid and a dog, or two kids and a dog. They move in, Baruch Hashem, with 10 kids, 12 kids, and there's rash and there's noise. Baruch Hashem. Comes Sukkot, and their balcony was too small to build a sukkah. So the first year, they built it although it was small. The next year, they decided, let's extend our balcony so we can have a bigger sukkah. But the only way you can extend the balcony is only, he did it legally, this guy, is only if you get permission from all the tenants in the apartment building. You have to get them to sign that they agree to all the noise and the fact that you are extending your balcony. So he told himself, this religious guy, he told himself, how am I going to do this? Because unfortunately, my neighbors don't want me here. They don't want this Haredi family in the building. Because it's mostly unaffiliated Jews. But he said, I'm going to go for it anyways. He went from apartment to apartment. This guy signed, another guy signed, Baruch Hashem, another guy signed, until he knocked on the door of this very well-known person that does not want any religious Jews in his apartment building. His name was Yitzchak Weinstein. He knocks on his door. Yitzchak Weinstein opens the door, and he tells him, listen, I want to extend my balcony. Look how many signatures already agreed. Would you agree to approve the papers in order for me to build the balcony? He says, come inside my living room. They sat inside the dining room, and he started having a conversation with him. And he said, I don't get you religious Jews. And instead of getting into this whole heated conversation, remember, these are two neighbors that barely speak to each other because he knew that he hates them for being this from big family. But now they're sitting at a dining room table and they're having a conversation. And the religious person tells Yitzchak Weinstein that there's actually being religious actually keeps the family together. And he asked him, how many kids do you have? And he says, I have a few children, but one is in Europe, one is over there, one is over there. They barely talk to me. So he proved to him that being religious brings a lot of nachat from the children. There's a lot of family bonding and brachot to come in. And they had more conversation. Then Yitzchak Weinstein asked him, do you know the prayer, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad? You're Jewish. Ends up being, by the way, a very sad story. This Yitzchak Weinstein's parents were Holocaust survivors from Europe. So the religious person asked Yitzchak Weinstein, who's not religious, do you know the prayer, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad? Yitzchak Weinstein said that yes, he heard of it many, many times, but he never really practiced it and really did it inside from a siddur properly. So the religious person told Yitzchak Weinstein, get me a siddur, I'll teach you how to do it. He tells him, I don't have a siddur. There's no such thing in this apartment. We don't have a siddur. So this fellow went to his apartment, brought a siddur to Yitzchak Weinstein's apartment again. They sat on the dining room table and he taught him how to say Shema Yisrael, how to cover your face. Why do we say Shema Yisrael? How to say Baruch Shem quietly. Then he taught him Ve'ahavta, and they went on and on. And the fellow who said over the story said that he spent a good hour with Yitzchak Weinstein teaching him how to say Shema Yisrael. Okay, finally Yitzchak Weinstein signs a paper. You can build your balcony. By the way, that's a nest by itself, miracle by itself. This religious person leaves happily. He goes home. The next morning he goes to Shachit. He goes to Kolel. He comes back home and he gets a knock on the door in his apartment. He opens the door. Who's there? Yitzchak Weinstein's wife. And she tells him, Kvod Harav, I want to tell you something. Right now, we're about to go to the levaya, to the funeral of my husband, Yitzchak Weinstein. He passed away last night, in the middle of the night. But I want you to come to the levaya, and I want you to initiate the whole levaya. And he tells her, oh my gosh, Baruch Dayan Emet, we're just with him yesterday. We spent a good hour together. We learned together. And the wife told him with tears, she's like, I want to tell you that my husband, although he was not religious his whole life, last night after you left, he kept on teaching me how to say Shema Yisrael. And he kept on saying, wow, it's such a beautiful prayer. And he kept on crying and saying, I wished I was able to learn this earlier. And he says he regrets not being religious. And he said, Shema Yisrael and Ve'ahavta. And he started speaking to God. And she felt that was very awkward because her husband never did that. And that night, Rabotai, Yitzchak Weinstein passed away. This is a tremendous story. That even a Jew who's not religious, unfortunately, he lost out. Most of his life, he was not religious. But at the last moment, he had Hiurei Teshuvah. He decided to actually say Shema Yisrael b'kavanah and get close to Hashem. He had tears of regret of not being frum. That is considered a level of teshuvah. That is a level of teshuvah. Because a Jew, no matter what they did in the past, no matter what happened, Every moment they have an opportunity to sincerely get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org